Hello, welcome to Assets Trip, a strategic game with added devilment. This video will help you with setting up and the rules of the game. First you need to set up the board, starting with the center spaces. Shuffle and place the bolt cards on their space. If there are only 2 players, remove the pink cards. 500 million goes on this whirlwind pile. Anytime money is won from the whirlwind, 500 million must go back here to replace it. 4 tokens are put on the other whirlwind pile. Again, these must be replaced when won. Designate 1 player to handle the money. Each player collects 1 of each banknote, totaling 2 billion and 50 million. Each player picks a playing piece, and takes the matching color token tray with tokens in. The aim of the game is to own the most assets. There are regular assets, key assets, and eco assets. Now it's time to place some of your tokens on the board, and start owning assets. How many tokens depends on how many players. With 2 players as here, 10 tokens each are placed on regular and key assets only, with 2 tokens kept to one side. Consult the rule booklet to see how many tokens per player you need for your game. Once you have placed all your tokens, pass the remaining tokens to the player on the left to place on any eco assets of their choice. When placing your tokens, you can stack more than 1 on an asset up to 4 high. Assets can only be placed diagonally from one another, and not neighboring or side by side. The value of an asset depends on the number of tokens placed on it. With 1 token on it, this regular asset has the value of 150 million. With 2, its value is 300 million. And with 3, its value is 450 million. Now to decide which track your playing piece starts on, you need to roll a die. Roll a 1 or a 2. You start on the inside track. Roll 3 or 4. You start on the middle track. Roll 5 or 6. You start on the outside track. If you land on an unowned regular asset, it becomes yours and you place a token on it. If you land on an owned regular asset, then you must roll a die. Roll a 1 or a 2, and it becomes yours. Roll a 3 or 4, then you and the player that owns the asset must both roll a die for it. The player who rolls the lowest number gets the asset. Roll a 5 or a 6, and you must pay the owner the value of the asset. If you land on an unowned key asset, you can own it for its board value. If you land on an owned key asset, then you must pay the owner the value of the asset, depending on how many tokens are on it. If you land on your own key asset, then you get to place an extra token on it and increase its value. If you land on an unowned eco asset and want to own it, you must pay the board value for it. If you land on an owned eco asset, then you and all the other players pay the owner the value of the asset. If you land on your own eco asset, then all the other players must pay you the value of it. You can attempt a hostile takeover of neighboring regular or key assets before rolling the dice on your turn. Let the other players know which asset you are attacking. Then roll a die for it. Roll a 1 or a 2. The asset you are attacking loses a token. Roll a 3 or a 4, and you and the opposing player must roll another deciding die. The highest roll loses a token. Roll a 5 or a 6, and you lose a token from your asset. 3 regular and key assets in a row make an asset strip. Asset strips can be along a track, across 3 tracks in a straight line, or diagonally across the tracks. For every 2 asset strips, you can place an extra token on an asset every turn before rolling the dice. You can also gain tokens for eco strips. These can be 3 eco assets in a row, or an asset strip with an eco asset on the end. These are only possible along the tracks. You can place an extra token on one of your assets, before rolling the dice on your turn, for every eco strip you own. Now you can roll the dice, and start the game. As you travel around the board, there are a few things to look out for. There are the change lane spaces. On the linked arrows, you can choose which track you want to take. On the separate arrow spaces, you need to follow the arrows and change track to progress. When you land on the buy spaces, you have the opportunity to purchase any single unowned asset on the board. When you land on the bolt from the blue spaces, pick up a card from the bolt card pile in the middle of the board, follow its instructions, and place it back at the bottom of the pile. Landing on the whirlwind spaces gives you the opportunity to win extra money and tokens with the roll of a die. Roll a 1 or a 2. Win both the money and the tokens on the center piles. Roll a 3 or a 4. Win the tokens. Roll a 5 or a 6. Win the money. The game is won when one player owns more than half of the assets. This video is just a quick introduction to Asset Strip. In the box we've included quick guide cards for setting up the game, what you can do on your move, and a full rules booklet. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy playing Asset Strip.